Have you ever had a moment where you suddenly understood something deep inside yourself? Maybe while driving alone, maybe after a dream, or perhaps sitting quietly late at night? A thought rises up that feels calmer, wiser, older somehow. Almost like another part of you has been quietly waiting beneath the noise of everyday life. I think most people experience this, but very few people are ever taught how to listen to it. Today, David Lowry will share a practice that has deeply impacted his life, a way of connecting with what he calls the inner elder. This isn't a supernatural being or perfected guru, but a deeper wisdom already living within you. And strangely enough, one of the easiest ways to access it is through conversation, sometimes even through AI, and sometimes through an imagined companion who helps us hear ourselves more clearly. For David Lowry, that companion is someone he calls Brother Thomas. Today, he will tell you more about his companion and help you discover yours.
Hello, my friends, and welcome to the Mystical Elder. I'm David Lowry, and today I want to talk about something very simple and very human. I believe there's a deeper part of us that sees more than our everyday thinking. It's a quieter part, a wiser part, and I call this the inner elder. I don't think this belongs only to saints or monks or mystical people. I think it belongs to everyone. You see, your mind is taking in far more than you consciously realize every day. You notice emotions in people, but maybe you didn't pay conscious attention to it. Your mind sees patterns, beauty, and pain. It sees dreams and longings. They're small moments that seem almost meaningless at the time, and most of it disappears beneath the surface. But it's not forever. Sometimes those hidden pieces begin rising back up, and that's why certain dreams stay with you longer, why certain memories suddenly appear, maybe years after they were formed, why some random thought suddenly feels important. Quiet wisdom often speaks to us in this way, quietly, indirectly. Not like a loud voice from heaven, but it comes from a place where you suddenly have a thought. It's almost like your mind is saying, would you like to think about this? And the strange thing is, the wisdom becomes easier to hear when you slow down enough to listen. And this is where contemplation comes in. Contemplation is simply learning to sit with yourself honestly, asking deeper questions, listening inwardly, not trying to force answers, and just becoming present enough for insight to rise naturally. Sometimes that means asking yourself questions like, why did this thought come up? What is this experience trying to teach me? Is there a part of myself I've been ignoring? And over time, something begins to happen. You become calmer, more compassionate, more aware, and you begin hearing your deeper self more clearly. This, to me, is your inner elder at work. And I think it's been quietly speaking to most of us our entire lives.
Maybe wisdom has never been as far away as we imagined. Maybe it has always been quietly waiting beneath the noise. But there's another fascinating part of this process. Sometimes wisdom becomes easier to hear when we give it a face, a personality, a story. And that leads us into something deeply human: archetypes.
We humans don't connect deeply to facts. Yes, facts are important, and rational reasoning thoughts are important. But we connect mostly through stories. We always have. Long before psychology books existed, people gathered around campfires telling stories about wise elders, wanderers, healers, seekers, mystics, and heroes. And those same patterns still exist today in our media. We see them in religion, mythology, movies, books, even superheroes. Why? Because these characters reflect real parts of ourselves. And that's what an archetype is. It's a universal human pattern. We see things like a seeker, a healer, a wise teacher, or maybe a wanderer, a wounded soul searching for meaning. We recognize ourselves in their stories. And that's why some characters affect us emotionally for reasons we can't fully explain. There's just something in their character that resonates with us. And I think that resonance matters because often the figures we're drawn to symbolically reflect something trying to awaken within us. Sometimes we need courage. Maybe other times we need peace and healing. Sometimes permission to question everything. And this is where contemplation becomes very powerful, because sometimes it's easier to hear wisdom when it speaks through a symbolic companion.
Once we understand this, the next question becomes very practical. How do we actually do this? How do we begin speaking with this deeper part of ourselves? And how can something as modern as AI become part of such an ancient human process?
So, how do we speak to this inner elder? The process is actually much simpler than most people would think. You begin by finding a symbolic figure that deeply resonates with you. Not necessarily a perfect person. In fact, imperfect figures are often better because they might feel more human. Maybe you do connect with a monk or a traveler, but it could be a wise grandmother, a philosopher, a healer, or even a fictional character. It's someone whose spirit reflects something that's alive within you. And for me, that figure became Brother Thomas. And over time, I realized something important. Wisdom becomes easier to access when I imagined I was speaking to him. Not because I thought he was literally real, but because conversation opened something inside of me. I could ask deeper questions. I could reflect more honestly. I could hear myself more clearly. In the beginning, I would just simply journal. I would write a question as if I were writing a letter, and then I'd write a response back. And what surprised me was this. Sometimes the answers felt wiser than my ordinary thinking. Maybe it was a little calmer and kinder, more honest. And over time, I realized that I was accessing deeper layers of myself. Sometimes today, I use AI as part of this contemplative process. I might ask, what would Brother Thomas say about grief? Or how would Brother Thomas respond to this situation that occurred to my life? And the value is not whether the AI is magically correct. The value is the reflection it creates in me. This conversation helps hidden thoughts to rise to the surface. It slows me down. It helps me listen inwardly. And honestly, I think many people could benefit from this kind of contemplative dialogue. It's especially valuable in a noisy world where most people rarely sit quietly with themselves anymore.
But who exactly is Brother Thomas? Where did he come from? And why did this particular figure become such an important companion in David's inner life?
Let me tell you a bit about my archetype, Brother Thomas. He emerged slowly over many years, and I didn't invent him all at once. He sort of revealed himself through reflection, journaling, and contemplation. Part of the connection may have come from my own history, because before I was adopted as a child, Thomas was part of my birth name. But I was also deeply drawn to the Apostle Thomas from the Bible, because Thomas questioned things. He doubted. He searched. He wanted to have a direct experience instead of just blindly accepting things. And honestly, that's always felt a little more human to me. I think many thoughtful people live that way, wanting truth, wanting meaning, but also wanting honesty. And Thomas represented a spirituality that could question deeply while remaining open to mystery. And there's another part that affects me deeply. Thomas was sometimes called the twin. And that symbolism has stayed with me because contemplation often feels like living with two selves. There's the outward self, handling all the ordinary life of work and bills and stress and responsibilities. But beneath that, there's another self, observing everything, questioning, reflecting, searching for meaning. And for me, Brother Thomas became the face of the deeper self. He's not a perfect saint, and he's not a supernatural being. He's just a symbolic companion helping me listen more deeply to my own inner wisdom. And over time, those conversations have changed me. I think they've made me a little more compassionate. They certainly have made me more reflective and more honest about what I like and don't like. And perhaps more importantly, they reminded me that wisdom arrives softly, not through certainty, but through stillness.
And perhaps that is the real invitation here. Not to believe in someone else's mystical experience, but to begin listening to your own. Because maybe your inner elder has been quietly waiting for you all along.
Today, I invite you to experiment. Gently, playfully, and curiously. Note which stories and symbolic figures stay with you emotionally. Note which personalities seem to awaken something meaningful inside of you. Then try something simple. Just sit quietly, ask a question, and write a response. Or, if you prefer, open a conversation with AI and explore the dialogue symbolically. It's not a fantasy. It's not a blind belief. It's contemplation, a way of listening more deeply to yourself. Because I truly believe this. Most people already carry profound wisdom within. They just haven't learned how to access it yet. But the inner elder isn't far away. It's been quietly waiting beneath the surface all along, just waiting for us to slow down enough to listen. So, my friends, may your journey be thoughtful, honest, and deeply meaningful, and may the inner elder within you continue to awaken.
Thank you for listening to The Mystical Elder. If today's episode resonated with you, please subscribe, share the podcast, and continue exploring the deeper conversation within yourself. Until next time, remain still, listen carefully, and honor the wisdom quietly waiting within you.